It's Saturday. You know what that means. Time for football. College football bowl season is officially underway, and these are, in fact, my predictions. So thank you for tuning in and listening. As always, I'm your host, Encyclopedia Sports, Coin Luke 96. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on social media. Links in the description below. Scroll down, check out Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit that red subscribe button, notification bell next to it, live right here on YouTube. Thumbs up button if you enjoy college football. Share hashtag college football, hashtag bowl games, hashtag bowl season, hashtag bowl mania, and chat questions and comments, super chat, super stickers, super likes, super thanks, always greatly appreciated. And better luck next season to any school that did not make a bowl game this season. Of course, you have to be bowl eligible at 6-6. There were a few waivers for 5-7 teams this year once again, but yeah, you got to be 6-6 to be bowl eligible to go to a bowl game during this bowl season. That, as I record this, about a week before Christmas, actually began yesterday. But as mentioned in a previous live stream this past week, I had winners on Friday in yesterday's two games in UAB and UTSA. So 1-1 in those two games, which we'll get into those in a second, and I'll run down with everything I said about that here in a minute, along with, as I will for the rest of these games. But we've got 6 games today. Of course, nothing tomorrow with the National Football League, and then nothing on Christmas either. But of course, the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve night, a week from now. And then next week, one game Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 1 Wednesday, Thursday, 2 next Friday, 1 Saturday, nothing next Sunday again because of the NFL. Along with on January the 1st, the New Year's Bowl games, as the college football playoff will be on New Year's Eve. 2 weeks from now, we'll have the New Year's Day Bowl games the following day on the 2nd. 40-plus bowl games. So 6 days, as mentioned. And the day after Christmas, we got 1. And then 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another 4 on New Year's Eve. 4 on the 2nd, and then the national championship game a week from then, with the 2 winners, of course, from the college football playoff semifinals in the Fiesta and Peach Bowls, respectively. Get to the top 4 in a minute. But, a good balance of, once it gets rolling, other than the 6 games today, the most of any day during bowl season, along with an NFL triple header today as well. At least 1 a day, if not 2, but a good balance. Like I said, 3, maybe even 4 or 5, give or take. So, rest in peace to Mike Leach as well, who passed away at 61 this past week after suffering a massive heart attack. Mississippi State will play Illinois in the formerly known Outback Bowl, now the ReliaQuest Bowl, in Tampa. So rest in peace to the Pirate, as we're going to try to find our inner Pirate today as we go through these bowl games and give a preview. So once again, thanks for tuning in and listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on social media. Links in the description below. And without further ado, these are my 2022 college football bowl game predictions. So here we go. As mentioned, this past week, I didn't know officially when I'd have time to sit down to record these, and if it was going to be an old school method of mine, to have an actual audio recording uploaded as a normal video with the thumbnail that you see as the backdrop, or if I'd stream it as a live stream, audio only, of course, for the time being, as well. So we went with the latter, and here we are. Of course, last weekend had streams for the most part uh, every day. So, of course, bowl season began yesterday, but here we are now, so that's all that matters. But I did mention that, at least for the Friday games, and I'll get to the Saturday games here in a minute, that if I didn't have a chance, of course, in time to talk about the Bahamas Bowl and the Cure Bowl that were played yesterday, I was picking UAB and UTSA, and as mentioned, I went 1-1 in those bowl games because to kick off bowl season from Nassau, we had Miami, Ohio out of the MAC, and UAB, who's been through a lot as a program recently. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger is not playing for the Red Hawks anymore, and can't pick against a flaming dragon is exactly what I had stated the other day. Forget exactly what stream it was. It might have been a whenever the bowl games were announced, for God's sakes, even a couple weeks ago, during college football or NFL live stream, or even a live stream this past week. Can't recall, but neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter. But UAB did in fact win 24-20, officially your final score, over Miami, Ohio. And then UTSA was ahead, but then Troy came back and ended up winning 18-12. So 2 one-score games yesterday to kick off bowl season. The Miami, Ohio UAB game and the Bahamas Bowl, both teams matched up at 6-6. So the Red Hawks technically finished with losing season out 6-7, 1 game below 500 with the bowl loss. UAB with the winning record, and Trent Dilfer now officially will take over as head coach. And then the Cure Bowl was a top 25 matchup between UTSA and Troy, as mentioned. The Trojans fought on and won by 6, 18-12, fighting as if they're still fighting in a war from that very year. But we had the Conference USA and Sun Belt champs face off in the Cure Bowl, as of course we're still trying to find a cure for cancer. So UAB with the win, along with Troy, 1-1 on day one, and then the 6 games today. Before we move any further, might add, as of course this is big time Division I college football at the D1 AA level. The FCS playoffs continue. They'll have their national championship game the day before the college football playoff national championship game. So it'll be the final day of the NFL regular season. That Sunday in week 18, January the 8th. So we'll see who's playing in that very game. Of course, we'll update these scores with who won and lost during my college football Rose Bowl, Penn State, Utah live watch along reactions live on YouTube on January the 2nd. So be sure to tune back in for that as well, along with the national championship game a week from then. But we had also this week the JUCO national championship game. The Division III national championship game was last night. The Division II national championship game is in fact today. But we got the Scott Satterfield Bowl between Cincinnati and Louisville from Fenway Park in Boston, Mass. And as that game is ongoing right now, just began the second quarter, they're tied at 7. So Fenway Bowl being played for the first time ever. They've been meaning to have it the past few years, but it's been canceled for reasons aside that, of course, don't matter today. They're playing it now, so that's all that matters. But yeah, Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati for Wisconsin. And then with that opening, Scott Satterfield leaves Louisville, to go to Cincinnati, right across the Ohio River. And with them playing at Fenway, of course, neither coach, Fickell's at Wisconsin now, sure as hell ain't coaching that. He'll be tuned into their bowl game against Oklahoma State. But no, with that being said, um, Satterfield's not coaching. Both Cincinnati and Louisville will have interims in this game, as they're tied at 7 right now, early second quarter, as mentioned. But the setup, of course, with a football game being played in a baseball stadium nowadays, it's not 100 years ago. You know, Yankee Stadium has had the Pinstripe Bowl past decade or so now. At this point, 15 years, give or take. So the Red Sox got in on the action as well, Fenway Bowl, but the far sideline, it's one full sideline for both teams. I mean, I can't remember the last time in a football game, a college football game for that matter, that two teams shared one sideline. But because of the setup with, you know, how the field is and space, because you're playing a football game in a baseball stadium, for God's sakes, you know, just is what it is. I mean, when, I forget who it was. Oh, it was the land of Lincoln. Probably a good decade, 15 years ago or so now. Yeah. Illinois Northwestern played in Chi-Town at Wrigley Field, and the thing about that game was they could only go in one direction. I think they could kick extra points in the other end, but they had to go one full way because the wall was too close to the back of the end zone. And of course, with precaution and player safety nowadays, that's that. But yeah, the Scott Satterfield Fenway Bowl, if you will. Sorry, Wasabi, but yeah, he leaves Louisville for Cincinnati. Of course, this is a rivalry game to begin with. They haven't played in about a decade, but it seems like there's, you know, a little bad blood with these two right now. You know, start with A and only A, Scott Satterfield leaving Louisville for Cincinnati, for God's sakes. And then Jeff Brom, right up the road at Purdue, leaves the Boilermakers to go back to his alma mater at Louisville. So he's not coaching this game either by any means. They'll take over full time after this. But long story short, with all that being said, you know, I mean, honestly, we can talk about these games, you know, all we want, but we're not playing them, let alone coaching them for that matter. The coaches are going to coach and the players are going to play. You know, we can talk all we want, but until the game's, you know, being played out in the field, on the gridiron, you know, see what it gives. As always, I'm sure something will, but Louisville this year, a little inconsistent. They started slow and then capped off a couple in a row and then finished at 7-5. Cincinnati at 9-3. Just short of winning the American Conference once again, as they lost to Tulane, and then Tulane beat UCF in a rematch to get to New Year's Six. So Cincinnati, from the college football playoff a year ago to the one of the earliest bowl games this bowl season, I think they'll find a way to win. So give me the Bearcats over the Cardinals. Later on today now, along with all these other games that are slated to kick off, those three, from the two yesterday and the one ongoing right now, nothing's underway. But we'll head out to Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, with the Las Vegas Bowl. Might as well play it at Hoover Dam with the Florida Gators and Oregon State Beavers, for God's sakes. I mean, honestly, it's like who can stay underwater the longest with these two. Oregon State in the top 15 at 9-3. Florida's already beaten a Pac-12 school this year, I might add, in Utah week 1. But that was week 1. They finished at 6-6. Oregon State having their best season by far in a good 15-20 years. So give me the Beavs over the Gators. And then we'll head to SoCal with Fresno State and Washington State in the LA Bowl. Jake Haener, Bulldog quarterback, was going to transfer to Washington State's rival in Washington, but then stayed put. Of course, Kalen DeBoer was at Fresno State, taking over for Jeff Tedford, but left for UW. And then Fresno State rehired Jeff Tedford, who was Aaron Rodgers' head coach at Cal. So Hayner stays put at Fresno State, gets injured early in the season, didn't think he was going to play at all the rest of the year. Does come back. Fresno State, they beat Boise at Boise on the blue turf once again to win the Mountain West. So, I mean, if they can do that in the cold, they can head a few hours south to LA to beat up on Washington State, I think. So, Fresno State with the win in that bowl game. The Lending Tree Bowl, so we'll lend a hand with Rice and Southern Miss. Rice, a 5-7 bowl team this year. Southern Miss not much better though at 6-6, but give me Rice just for the hell of it, honestly, because they're 5-7. You'd hope at least they'd want to be playing for another win. I mean, you play to win the game, for God's sakes, and they're pretty lucky to be in this spot. So see if they can light a match and kickstart a fire of some sorts and beat Southern Miss in the Lending Tree Bowl. So give me the Rice Owls. And then we'll go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, a city that All Elite Wrestling hates, with the Mormons of Brigham Young and all the Methodists in the Big D, Dallas, Texas, from SMU. Walter White going to be your official white capper today. BYU, SMU, the New Mexico Bowl later on night. This game normally, yes, is in fact always on day one of bowl season, but earlier in the day. But they switched the New Mexico Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl for a scheduling conflict of some sorts. I believe it was because of the NFL flexing out Sunday Night Football tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. So the Las Vegas Bowl is supposed to be later on tonight, but now sooner rather than later today, in a few short hours. And then the New Mexico Bowl takes its spot in prime time with BYU and SMU, both teams 7-5. That will be today's question of the day on social media as well, so be sure to go check that out. And might add that polls are back on Facebook for the first time in nearly 3 years. So for the time being, no more copying and pasting the Twitter poll to Facebook for question of the days on Facebook and Twitter. But be sure to go vote. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to social media. Links in the description below. So, yeah, BYU, SMU, New Mexico Bowl. BYU at 7-5, man. Sort of disappointing. They were, for the most part, in every game, but from where they've been the past few years, from Bronco Mendenhall to Kalani Sitake, 7-5. I mean, they still make a bowl game, no doubt about it, but from them winning 9, 10, 11 games year in and year out recently, it's felt like at least, okay, win a few less because you lost a few more, is what it is. SMU's about a 5-point favorite, but I think BYU gets it done and beats up on SMU. Honestly, that's pretty neutral from Utah to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Dallas, Texas to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So give me the Cougs from Provo to win the New Mexico Bowl. Speaking of Texas, North Texas, they're in the Frisco Bowl, basically in their own backyard, just south from Mean Green Country in Denton. And even with the bowl game appearance, they've already fired their head coach and Seth Luttrell. They'll take on Boise State. Boise State, one of those teams, quiet 9-win season, but 9-4, still a little disappointing, because they're normally, in the thick of it, late in the year. But then they lost, as mentioned, Fresno State in the Mountain West conference championship game at home a few weeks back. Picked Fresno State earlier. I want to pick the team they beat in Boise State as well to win the Frisco Bowl later on tonight as well. So those are the first, 2 games, or 2 days of bowl games, excuse me. None tomorrow with the NFL, and none the following 2 Sundays as well. But we'll have a game on Monday afternoon from the Teal Turf in Myrtle Beach, home of Coastal Carolina. We'll see Marshall, who went to Notre Dame earlier this year, won, finished at 8-4, yes, but then really didn't do anything after they beat the Fighting Irish, who are also in a bowl game. We'll get to the game in a minute. I thought, especially with that loss to Marshall and how they were playing early in the season, Golden Domers would probably be done for, but they fought back and also made a bowl game. But then talking about a team that a quiet 6-6 season. How the hell once again did UConn finish at 6-6 and make a bowl game? I have no clue in hell. I don't think anybody does. But shout out to Jim Moore and the Huskies and his haunted house. Going to Myrtle Beach. This is a coin flip game. Marshall and UConn down in Myrtle Beach. For the hell of it, as I've been saying all season long, like, how the hell is UConn winning these games? And they finish at 6-6. Give me the Huskies over the Thundering Herd, even though, of course, Bison could stampede UConn in the Myrtle Beach Bowl on Monday, for all we know, as they're about a 2-touchdown favorite, but we'll see what it gives. That's why they play the game. It's 7 on paper, 7 on field, and these are just predictions. So from the Teal Turf in Myrtle Beach, we'll head out to the Blue Turf at Boise for the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Eastern Michigan and San Jose State. San Jose State had a game that was unfortunately canceled due to a death of a player. So very well could have finished at 8-4, just like Eastern Michigan, but they finished at 7-4. But very well could have lost that game that was canceled and finished at 7-5. But they're still in a bowl game. They're favorites. Eastern Michigan, though, is one of those teams I've seen out of the MAC this year that they can score if need be. And I mean, hell, they won 8 games for God's sakes. And for Eastern Michigan, won 8 games. That's pretty damn good. So they give them the Eagles over the Spartans. And then we'll go to Boca, Liberty, and Toledo. Hugh Freeze no longer at Liberty, hired at Auburn, but Jimmy Chadwell left Coastal Carolina for the Flames. I mean, the program ain't shambles by any means. You know, they went to Arkansas and won, I might add, this year against a good Hog team who came with a big bowl win last year in the Outback Bowl against Penn State. And then, you know, they finished at 6-6 this year. We'll get to them in a minute as well. But, you know, Liberty 8-4 very well could, think about it, have 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins. They lost a few games. They probably shouldn't have. A lot of close games. This game should be close as well. Toledo, they won the MAC. So I'd say, yeah, give me the Rockets to rocket over the Flames. Even though, of course, there's going to be a flame at the end of that rocket. We'll see where it shoots, and we'll see who scores. But, yeah, Toledo to defeat Liberty, I think, on the campus of Florida Atlantic down in Boca Raton. That is, in fact, on Tuesday night. On Wednesday night, we'll have the New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky and South Alabama. Western Kentucky can score. But South Alabama, 10-2, 10-win season has to speak for something. So give me the Jags. Baylor against Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. Of course, we saw Army, Navy. Neither team bowl eligible this year. Air Force, the lone military academy. Going to a bowl game this bowl season, sitting at 9-3, taking on Baylor, who just up and down, disappointing 6-6 campaign. They're gonna have to stop the run, because that's all Air Force does, no doubt about it, in this Armed Forces Bowl. But in the meantime, of course, shout out to our troops, whether that's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard. Thank you for your service, and God bless the United States of America. I just can't pick Baylor. I can't. They look good one game, shit the bed the next. They'll be in it till the end. It should be a close game, but they're going to have to stop the run. I think Air Force might be a little too much for them. So give me Air Force to beat Baylor. And I mean, hell, they're playing the Armed Forces Bowl. So if Air Force doesn't win the Armed Forces Bowl, so I believe Army won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's not a given that a military institution, academy of some sorts, is going to be playing this game every year. It's just how it shakes out, feels like. But yeah, give me Air Force to beat Baylor. Playing the Armed Forces Bowl, so hard to pick them in that regard as well. And then we'll head to the Independence Bowl and then the Gasparilla Bowl. Louisiana Lafayette and the Houston Cougars, along with Missouri and Wake Forest. A couple 6-6 and 7-5 teams next Friday. Houston, man, give me the Cougs to win. I think they'll find a way to win. I mean, 7-5 very well could have 8, 9, 10, 11 wins, though. I mean, hell, early in the season, overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, come from behind wins with very little time left, and games being played on a Friday. And we've had a lot of one-score college football games on Fridays this season. So yeah, give me Houston to win the Independence Bowl. I'm sure Dana Holgorsen will be airing it out for his former boss and Mike Leach passed away. And then Mizzou and Wake Forest. That to pick 'em. That's a coin flip. Gasparilla Bowl. It ain't the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl anymore. It's a Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, as Bad Boy Mowers is now up in the Bronx with the Pinstripe Bowl. But see, Missouri thought at the time, okay, Eli Drinkowitz might be out. They extend them. They're in the SEC East, even though they probably should still be in the Big 12. Wake Forest can score. They can. Remember, they were supposed to play A&M last year out of the SEC in the Gator Bowl, but then A&M had to opt out, and that's one thing we haven't got yet. We've had opt-outs with players, but no opt-outs with teams, and no cancellation of bowl games yet, so I guess thank God for that. But Wake Forest can score. They put up, a few fights that come up short on. So I guess give me the Demon Deacons to beat the Tigers. Gasparilla Bowl. It'll be a fight to the end, but I think Wake Forest a little shade lighter in the yellow, gold, and black. They'll find a way to pick up that W for the capital WF in Wake Forest. And then next Saturday night, Christmas Eve night, the Hawaii Bowl. We'll be watching that with a live stream of the Steelers and Raiders on Christmas Eve night as well, so be sure to tune in for that. But we'll see Middle Tennessee State and San Diego State. Hawaii Bowl is normally pretty good. And both these teams, even though they're 7-5 this year, they're pretty damn good too. This is another coin flip game, I think. San Diego State's another one of those teams that probably lost a few games they shouldn't have, but oh well, it is what it is. My gut says to pick San Diego State, but then in recent years, when I haven't picked Middle Tennessee State in bowl games, they've ended up winning. So we'll see if I learn from my lesson or not, but I'm still going to pick San Diego State win Hawaii Bowl. I mean, what a ultimate destination. The Bahamas, the Hawaii Bowl, I mean, the College Football Playoff, National Championship game, for that matter as well. But, I mean, what I'm saying is don't be surprised if Middle Tennessee State wins. But I just can't pick against San Diego State. So, yeah, give me the Aztecs to win that. And then next week, day after Christmas, the Quick Lane Bowl, Pizza in Motown. Of course, the Big Ten has a tie-in with this game, but No Big Ten team playing in this game. We'll see Bowling Green and New Mexico State both at 6-6. New Mexico State had to win their final game to become bowl eligible, as a few other teams did as well, I might add. But Bowling Green, they're closer to home than New Mexico State is, so I think they'll win that game. Camellia Bowl, Buffalo and Georgia Southern, along with First Responder Bowl with Memphis and Utah State. And then we'll get into the Carolinas and then head out west with a Badger taking on a Cowboy. But Georgia Southern, I mean, man, they went to Nebraska and won this year. Got Scott Frost fired from Lincoln. Matt Roll takes over as the Cornhusker head coach, so congratulations to him. I've said my piece on that in the past. Of course, as a Penn State fan, would have loved if James Franklin would have, left on his own or ended up getting fired. Would have loved to have had Matt Roll take over right here in Happy Valley, but it's not going to be happening anytime soon. He's going to be in the Big Ten now on the West with the black shirts and the red N. So if Georgia Southern, I get Nebraska's been bad, but if they can go to Memorial Stadium and win against the Huskers, I mean, they should be able to win their bowl game. Buffalo, I might add, playing another Camellia Bowl, however, and I mean, this game's a pick 'em too. These are all just off the top of my head at this point. We'll see how I fare. I believe last year, I'm going to have to look it up in my notes. I finished right at 500 with all the bowl games, counting the playoff and the national championship game as well, I might add. But at this point, I'm calling that not 100% certain, but I'll check into that and let you know. But give me Georgia Southern, and then in the First Responder Bowl, Memphis and Utah State. Shit, another one of those games, man. Just so I play a game, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And knowing some about these teams, maybe not enough. I mean, of course, that's on me, but Memphis right now is pretty damn good at basketball. I mean, they were, half decent there at football before Mike Norvell left for Florida State, and now has gotten them, to, a good point. Quiet 9-win season in Tallahassee with the Noles, but Blake Anderson at Arkansas State to Utah State lost his wife. First Responder Bowl, shout out to all the first responders as well. Give me Utah State to beat Memphis. And then the Birmingham Bowl, should be playing this game on the Outer Banks, but Coastal Carolina and East Carolina. Coastal Carolina is just too damn good. I think the Chanticleers will find a way to win that game, and then we'll head out to the desert. Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, two teams, especially Oklahoma State, that late in the year just disappeared. Nowhere to be found. Finished at 7-5, so they're bowl eligible in this bowl game. Taking on the Badgers, who fired Paul Chryst, and then seemingly thought they were going to promote Jim Leonard, which they did not. Hired Luke Fickell away from Cincinnati, and we'll see where Jim Leonard lands. But as a Big Ten fan myself, bleed blue and white with Penn State, you got to pick the Big Ten teams. You got to root for your conference during bowl season. Now, a few of these games I might not, but I just can't trust Oklahoma State. I can't. I had them winning the Big 12 this year, and they didn't come close because, I mean, they were ranked there in the top 25 up until they lost a few straight, and then they won, and then they lost again, and, yeah, I just can't trust Mike Gundy, I'm a man, I'm 40 plus, however long it's been since he said that. So 50 plus now at this point, but should be a good game. Wisconsin should be able to run the ball, pretty good. I mean, this is a game with two different styles. Wisconsin's going to run the ball down your throat and run play action off of it. And then Oklahoma State's just going to, air it out. But, they do play good defense too. So, I mean, honestly, it might be who can not bend but break on defense, with who's going to end up winning the game. But I got to pick the Badgers from Madison. So we'll see if Wisconsin can get it done or not. But on Wisconsin, they beat Oklahoma State in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. What a name. Military Bowl, Duke in Central Florida. Duke quiet 8-win season, 8-4. UCF, they would have beat Tulane. They'd be in the Cotton Bowl right now. And then probably losing to USC, which Tulane will do as well. But I think they're better than Duke in this Military Bowl. They're, of course, come up north and play in the cold. But I think the Golden Knights in shining armor will beat the Blue Devils. And then the Liberty Bowl, we're reportedly going to get a matchup with two former Big 12 teams in Kansas and Missouri, but then Missouri didn't want to play them for whatever reason, even though they do have a home-and-home schedule in the next couple of years. So then the Liberty Bowl gets Arkansas and Kansas. So a couple states that right there in the Midwest that connect each other. It's not Kansas, Missouri, it's Arkansas and Kansas. And Kansas, man, 5-0 start and a 6-6 finish. That's pretty disappointing. Sam Pittman's gotten Arkansas back on track, it seems like. So give me the Hogs to win the Liberty Bowl. The Holiday Bowl is normally pretty good. We'll have Oregon and North Carolina square off in San Diego. See, that's the thing too with some of these later bowl games after Christmas. Of course, with bowl prep, with bowl practice, there's still to this point, some players that still haven't said whether they're, going to play or not, opting out, preparing for the draft, so on and so forth. So I'm not just saying that could affect, a pick in some of these games. Drake Mays, as far as I know, is still playing for Carolina, and Bo Nix is still playing for Oregon. So I think, I expect a lot of points to be scored here, but I wouldn't be surprised, old school defensive showdown. But at the same time, North Carolina just lost the ACC championship game to Clemson, who put up 40 on them. And, Oregon's that, type of caliber team as well. They lost a few games late in the year, and then very well could have made the Pac-12 title game, but they did not. They finished at 9-3, ranked 15th in the country because they lost Civil War. Oregon State is ranked right ahead of them at 14, as mentioned earlier. They played later on today against Florida, as mentioned, in Vegas. And I picked them to win. I'm going to pick the Ducks to win as well. Give me Oregon to beat the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Texas Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. Lane Kiffin ain't going anywhere. Signed an extension to remain in Oxford. Texas Tech back in the Texas Bowl, I might add. But Ole Miss just lost to Mike Leach in Mississippi State, and now they got to take on one of his two former teams in Tech. That'd be something because Washington State's a bowl game later on today. If Texas Tech, Washington State, and Mississippi State all won their bowl games, the bowl season after Mike Leach died. We probably should pick it that way for the hell of it, sentimental reasoning. But I think Ole Miss is just a little bit better than Texas Tech. Um, Joe McGuire's in Lubbock right now. High school football coach in Texas, gets the reins of big, D1 program. Um, Finishes 7-5 this year, but you'll see a lot of speed in this game. Um, you should see some points scored, but I think Ole Miss is just a little too powerful, and the Rebs find a way. They win the Texas Bowl. Pinstripe Bowl, which is the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl, just doesn't come off the tongue right. It should be the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl rather than New Era Pinstripe Bowl. No thanks. But Penn State, Big Ten fan at heart. You see Minnesota and Syracuse at Yankee Stadium. So give me the Golden Gophers to beat up on the Orange. Drink some orange juice in the wind. Squeeze them to a pulp. And PJ Fleck gets Minnesota a 9-win season. I mean, they were right in the thick of it in the Big Ten West. I mean, I don't think anybody knew who the hell was going to win the Big Ten West this year at any given time by any means. But, yeah, give me Minnesota to beat Syracuse. And then give me Florida State to beat Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl. Cheez-It has a couple of sponsors. As they have the Cheez-It Bowl, which is the second of the 3 Orlando Bowl games. It was a Cure Bowl yesterday. But then they have the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl now, which is, of course, just still the Citrus Bowl. And once the college football playoff expands to 12 teams in 2024, that is, you would have to think, as the Alamo Bowl's next in line, about 2 weeks from now, we'll have 2 state-named teams in Texas and Washington square off in. We'll see who's going to San Antone, but yeah, the Alamo Bowl, should be in consideration along with the Citrus Bowl, as mentioned. Hell, even the Outback Bowl. Could potentially even throw the Music City Bowl into that mix, but I'd also add in the Gator and the Sun Bowl along with the Alamo Bowl and the Holiday Bowl. Those are your, honestly, next bowl games in line, as we say, for the New Year's Six, with the 2 semifinals as they rotate. But anywhere from the Rose, the Fiesta, the Cotton, the Sugar, the Peach, or the Orange, you could add in, a few more, then for those bowl games to be placed or ranked a little higher up. Because, the rumor is the first round will be played on campus, on site, and then, you move on from there with the bowl games, and we'll see how the schedule shakes out. I'm sure there's some analytics to still figure out, of course, as next year technically will be the final year with the current 4-team format for the playoff. So we're in the last year of that right now, but then the playoff will expand to 12 teams in 2024. But where was I? Pinstripe Bowl, give me Minnesota. Yeah, Florida State at 9-3. How the hell did that happen? I don't know. But Oklahoma is not Oklahoma without Bob Stoops or Lincoln Riley. No offense to Brent Venables, but Boomer Sooner, I think the Noles are going to chop you. And Florida State picks up a win. And then Texas and Washington's damn good Alamo Bowl. And that Alamo Bowl is always a must-watch. Always down to the wire for the most part. Hell, Texas, hook 'em horns, they won this bowl game a few years back and then ended up firing their head coach and Tom Herman, who's now at Florida Atlantic after taking a few years off. But as it's a top 20 matchup, this is our first top 25 bowl game since The only one we've had thus far, or to that point, since yesterday in the Cure Bowl with Troy and UTSA. And the higher ranked team in that very game won. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored here with Texas and Washington, but it might be one of those games. Talk about defense. And Texas is, the question is Texas back? We'll find out in due time. Of course, they'll be going to the SEC along with Oklahoma. They play on the same day, almost 2 weeks from now, as mentioned. And, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan along with Dallas Cowboy fan, you better have 2 TVs that night, because the Cowboys are playing Thursday Night Football on Thursday, December the 29th, and that Alamo Bowl ain't until that night as well. Kickoff be about half hour, 45 minutes later, but be a big night in football in the Lone Star State, from Dallas to Austin and everywhere in between, the whole way down to San Antonio. And Washington's a team I like. Kalen DeBoer did well at Fresno State, takes over at UW. And I think they get to 11-win season. I do. So give me the Huskies to beat up on Texas. Not necessarily beat up, but just they find a way to win. And then we'll go to Charlotte and El Paso and Jacksonville before we head to South Beach. We got the Mayo Bowl with Maryland and NC State. Maryland proved me wrong last year in their bowl game. They beat Virginia Tech pretty bad out of the ACC, and now they're going to take on a former ACC opponent in NC State as well this year. NC State, of course, playing in their own backyard, but they find ways to win. They're tough, they're gritty, but they've been banged up all season with injuries. I mean, hell, down to their 4th-string quarterback, for God's sakes. Maryland's, done okay. A couple duds, though, and it's like, honestly, what team's going to show up? So in that regard, even as a Big Ten fan myself, I got to pick NC State to win the Mayo Bowl over Maryland. And then, speaking of being Penn State Big Ten fan, you got to root for your conference during bowl season. Just is what it is. I mean, it makes your conference look better. It makes your conference look stronger. It makes your favorite team look better and stronger, I might add, as well. Now, technically, UCLA is not in the Big Ten yet, but they officially will be with USC in 2024. And as a Penn State fan, eat shit Pitt. UCLA is playing Pitt in their great Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. So yeah, UCLA just too explosive for Pitt to begin with. Give me the Bruins to beat up on the Panthers. So we'll see who mauls who. But UCLA defeating Pitt in the Sun Bowl. Basically every game's on ESPN, ABC. That's on CBS. The Holiday Bowl's on Fox. But 40+ bowl games, all being streamed, all able to be watched. Great time of the year, as it is with football season. From late August, early September to, the holiday season. Hopefully everyone will have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year as well, or a Happy Holidays if you're one of those people. But, to cap off the year, as always, here we are at bowl season, and how the hell are we already here? I don't know. 2022 absolutely flew by. Football season absolutely flew by. These bowl games are going to be the final game of the season. Of course, if you win the playoff, you play an extra game for the national championship game. But, college football winding down, unfortunately, and then we'll get into recruiting as signing days this Wednesday as the early signing day, and the old school signing day, of course, still as is the first Wednesday in February. But then we'll get into, spring ball, dog days of summer, and then next year we'll be here before you know it, as always. We have college football coming to a close. The NFL's got less than a month now left in the regular season before their playoffs begin, and then a month from then they'll crown a champion in the Super Bowl. But I think UCLA, as mentioned, they'll be Sun Bowl champs. They'll beat Pitt. And then the Gator Bowl, good game with South Carolina and Notre Dame. Another top 25 game. Now we're starting to get into, some better matchups. I've stated recently, I've thought, though, this year for the bowl slate, for all the games, for that matter, regardless of the matchup, there's something about it just doesn't, seem as good for whatever reason this year. But, damn well we're going to get a lot of damn good games, hopefully. So knock on wood there. But I thought they got the playoff right with Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. As Alabama's 5, Tennessee 6, Clemson 7, along with Utah at 8, Kansas State at 9, USC 10, and Penn State 11. And that 12th team is Washington. So if the 12-team format for the College Football Playoff would be in effect right now, those would be your top 12. And top 4, of course, would have buys. You'd have 12 play 5, 11 play 6, 10 play 7, and 9 play 8. And the 4 highest ranked seeds play a home game, and then you move on from there. But South Carolina's a team I like too. They find ways to win. They play Beamer ball. Shane's done well. Former assistant, of course, under his dad at Virginia Tech, but then also a former assistant under the old head ball coach in Steve Spurrier as well, along with being an assistant in Norman at Oklahoma with Stoops and Lincoln Riley. And he's put together a good program. They went and beat Clemson, who also plays, on this very day. So a lot of football going to be watched in the state of South Carolina on December the 30th. But see, Notre Dame, even at 8-4 themselves, yeah, they're a totally different team than they were early in the year, no doubt about it. But I wouldn't want to be playing South Carolina right now. I wouldn't. So I think the Gamecocks end up beating the Catholics and send the Golden Doming Fighting Irish back to South Bend with a loss. As, of course, they were in a New Year's Six last year, taking on Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl, as Brian Kelly left them for his family down in Baton Rouge. Tigers and Boilermakers in Orlando in Citrus Bowl, which we'll get to in a minute. But, yeah, I wouldn't want to be playing South Carolina right now. So, long story short of that, South Carolina, I think, wins. The Barstool Bowl, Ohio and Wyoming being played in Arizona. Game of the Bobcats from Athens. Penn State fan, of course, the Lions beat them 46-10 week 2. And then Ohio made the MAC championship game. Fortunately lost to Toledo. But as much as I pick Wyoming, I think Ohio's going to win this game against the Cowboys. And then the Orange Bowl, Tennessee and Clemson, before we hit New Year's Eve with the 2 playoff semis, which we're going to hold off until the end. But then we'll have another top 10 matchup, 2 games back-to-back, from dusk till dawn. Tennessee, Clemson, then Alabama, Kansas State. See, Tennessee, even at 10-2, ranked 1 team below Alabama, who they beat. But then Tennessee lost at Georgia and then got blown out by South Carolina. See, that's the thing with South Carolina. I wouldn't want to be playing them right now because they can score, yes, but they find ways to win. They Beamer ball, put your hat hard hat on, go to work, pack a lunch. One of those games. Whereas then, okay, Tennessee, after Vandy beat up on, a few teams in the SEC, the Vols beat them out, but Hendon Hooker's out. And, I mean, Joe Milton, who played at Michigan, he can sling it, yes, but even DJ Uwe Lungalale, as he's transferring from Clemson, and Cade Klubnik takes over. Clemson's coming off an ACC championship, 11-2 right now. I think they get to 12 wins. I mean, 12 wins and a New Year's Six bowl win. There's going to be a lot of orange, I might add, in the Orange Bowl with Tennessee and Clemson, but I think Clemson gets it done. I think they beat up and send the Vols back to Rocky Top with a loss. So Clemson beats Tennessee. See Alabama, Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. Alabama's, been to this bowl game under Nick Saban, whether it's been just a basic New Year's Six bowl or in the playoff. They've won it, but they've also lost it. And Kansas State, one of those teams, probably right now won't be playing them either. Of course, Bryce Young's going to play. And then, of course, seemingly be a first-round pick next year in the NFL draft. But Kansas State just, I think that's probably going to be the big upset for myself. I'm going to take K-State over Bama in the Sugar Bowl. Might, be a little bit of a, surprise to some, but, Alabama wasn't good enough to make the college football playoff. They'll be, playing with a spark, no doubt about it, because of that in the Sugar Bowl against K-State. So, I mean, honestly, they could blow their ass out for all we know, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think anybody would be surprised for that matter. But for predictions' sake, that's going to be my one big upset as I look ahead. Even might have two, and I'll explain that situation in a minute. But I'm going to take Kansas State to defeat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. And then we'll head just north to Nashville with the Music City Bowl, Iowa, and Kentucky. I think probably the first team to 5, maybe even 10 points wins this game. Who's playing quarterback for both teams is the big question, because Iowa's had injuries along with transfers. Will Levis opts out, not going to play. It's honestly, in the Music City Bowl, who's going to make the more noise? Most noise. And I think whoever does make the most and more noise in that regard in the Music City Bowl. Remember, they've met recently in a couple other bowl games, I might add. Iowa, Kentucky in the Music City Bowl. I believe it was last year they played in the Citrus Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, right? And let me check in on that real quick, because revenge, payback might be a factor. Because, like I said, I'm pretty damn sure it was either last year or the year before they played in Orlando in the Citrus Bowl. It was officially, the Citrus Bowl from January the 1st, 2022, so a year come New Year's. And Kentucky won 20-17. And Mark Stoops, of course, having played at Iowa, as all the Stoops are from Youngstown, Ohio, played in Iowa City. You have the Stoops and Pellinis, you have Iowa, Nebraska, you got Kentucky. Big Ten fan myself, though. Special teams, I think, probably going to be a big factor in this game, no doubt about it. Might have a return or two be the difference, whether that's for a touchdown or just to set up good field position of some sorts. Go Hawks. I think Iowa gets revenge. So yeah, they're meeting in back-to-back years in bowl games. Of course, a little closer for both schools to travel and the fan bases rather than to Florida. They're going to Nashville, Tennessee. But yeah, like I said, I think whoever makes the most noise is going to win that. And the first to probably 5, 10, even 15 points wins this game because both offenses aren't that good. But Iowa wins. The two college football playoff semis are then right after those two games on New Year's Eve, but we're going to hold off on the prediction of those until the end, which ain't far off because we only got 4 more games. The New Year's Day bowl games that are going to be played on January the 2nd because the NFL has Sunday. So the ReliaQuest Bowl, of course formerly known as the Outback Bowl in Tampa, will kickstart the day. It'll be Mississippi State without Mike Leach, as he unfortunately passed away after suffering a massive heart attack, and then a few strokes, and was put on life support, and hospice was brought in, and then passed away at 61 this past Monday night. But he went out a winner in the Egg Bowl, defeating Mississippi State's arch rival in Ole Miss. And the Bulldogs are now going to take on Brett Bielema's Illinois Fighting Illini. And I'm going to give 2 winners in this game. Sentimental winner is Mississippi State because of Mike Leach. As mentioned the other night, and as you know, you see all these stories now that have come out about him. And how good of a person, man, coach he was. Of course, just sad. Every once in a while, yeah, you might see an assistant coach pass away for whatever reason, but head coach is very rarely. You got to go the whole way back to when Randy Walker had a heart attack at Northwestern in 2006 before Pat Fitzgerald was promoted, and of course still the head coach in Evanston. And Northwestern going to be in a new stadium in a few years, but as they won week 1, lost every other game this year, they're not in a bowl game this year. But Illinois is out of the Big Ten, out of that state as well. So come full circle here. Yeah, the sentimental favorite winner is Mississippi State, but as a Big Ten fan myself, and what Brett Bielema's done in Champaign with the Fighting Illini, I think the Illini, ILL, of course you can finish it for me, INI, I think they fight. Mississippi State's going to fight and probably win one for their now former coach and Mike Leach, but I think Illinois wins. I do. But also give me Mississippi State for Mike Leach. Cotton Bowl, we'll see USC, who lost in their conference title game, to Utah, who goes to their second straight Rose Bowl. USC going to take on Tulane, who was officially the highest ranked non-Power 5. They won the American Athletic Conference Championship game. But, this could be that upset, especially if Caleb Williams doesn't play because of an injury. Now, if he does play, USC is just too high-powered, too explosive on offense. But then Tulane, with the turnover battle, potentially even special teams, keep themselves in it, could find a way to win. I think USC does, in fact, win, though, when it's all said and done. How bad of a blowout win will it be? Who knows? But like I said, wouldn't be surprised. Contingent on if Caleb Williams plays or not. If he plays, USC wins. Their defense is atrocious, though, at times. Their 2 losses, both to Utah. And then Utah, as they beat them in the Pac-12 title, they go back to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl, as mentioned. But, USC, it's contingent on if Caleb Williams plays. If he plays, USC wins. If he doesn't, USC probably still wins, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tulane would win. because of, as mentioned, turnovers, playing good defense, special teams. Just find a way to, keep yourself afloat, keep yourself ahead, just give yourself a chance. Both teams 11-2 in the Cotton Bowl, so we've seen some good Cotton Bowls recently, and we'll see how it goes this year. Technically next year when the game's played, January the 2nd, 2023, but still this season. And then we'll head to Orlando, the third and final bowl game in that very city. Shout out to Coach Lee Corso as well. Hopefully he's doing well after battling some health issues this season, as he's, of course, getting up there in age. But, of course, when he's not there, game day just ain't the same. And once he does, unfortunately, pass away, hoping it's never, game day definitely won't be the same at that point, because the headgear, I wonder who he'd be picking in this game. LSU, go Tigers, or blow her up with Purdue. But see, Brian Kelly at LSU now gonna take on in a bowl game a team from the state he just left in Indiana when he was at Notre Dame. And he knows Purdue, quite well. They've played a few times, when he was there, and, beat them. But Purdue's, this is another one of those, even as a Big Ten fan myself, games that I just can't pick the Big Ten team, because Jeff Brom's gone. He's gone back to his alma mater, leaving Purdue for Louisville. So, yeah, I just can't pick Purdue. And Aiden O'Connell ain't playing either. So, the Big Ten, honestly, hate to say it, it's always during bowl season they shit the bed. They get swept by, the SEC or, a few other schools from a few other conferences that they, honestly shouldn't be losing to, but they just do. It's just how it is. But the Big Ten, I might add, did get two teams in the college football playoff for the first time this year as well, so we'll see if they can win those. But I'm going to take LSU to beat Purdue in the Citrus Bowl. And then just real quick, with the granddaddy of them all in Pasadena, the 109th Rose Bowl. This will be the final bowl game before the national championship game. Then a week later, that'll have a early kickstart at 7:30 Eastern time rather than an 8 or 9 o'clock kick. But of course, as a Penn State fan, we are Penn State. Myself, as Penn State played in the Rose Bowl 100 years ago, of course, I wasn't around then. Anybody listening to this, guarantee you, wasn't around then. But as the Rose Bowl stadium, the current stadium, celebrates 100 years this year in the 109th Rose Bowl game, they played it a few times away from Pasadena because of World War II and COVID. It's just pretty cool, Penn State played in the very first Rose Bowl in this current Rose Bowl stadium, and now they're back 100 years later, taking on Utah, who's going back for the second straight year. But as myself, your host, Encyclopedia Sports, Code and Luke, 96. Personally, myself, yeah, I've seen Penn State play in the Rose Bowl now twice. So I wasn't around in 95. I was born in 96. I have yet to see Penn State win a Rose Bowl. Okay? And Penn State's Rose Bowl history, 100 years ago, they lost to USC. The 94 season when they went undefeated, very well could have, should have won the national championship. January 2nd, 95, they beat Oregon. And then the 08 and 16 season, January of 9 and 17, respectively, they lost to USC. So with that being said, long story short, Penn State doesn't play USC. They've won the Rose Bowl. They're not playing USC in the Rose Bowl. They're playing Utah. And Utah is a tough team. Utah's a team I do like. I do respect. Kyle Whittingham's been there for almost 20 years now at this point. Taking over for Urban Meyer after he left for Florida. They're tough. And they're going to play damn good defense. Both of these teams, old school methods, they're more similar than they are different. If Penn State can run the football offensively, I think they'll be okay because their defense is top notch as well. Under Manny Diaz in his first year, taking over for Brent Pry, who got the Virginia Tech job. Of course, Virginia and Virginia Tech did not play their final game against one another this season due to the few deaths in Charlottesville with the shooting. So thoughts and prayers there, of course. But neither team, if they would have played the game and won, neither team was bowl eligible to begin with. But that's neither here nor there for this game. I'm just, going to keep it, for the most part, most I can, short and sweet for this Rose Bowl game, because I'm going to have more info during the live stream with Penn State and Utah. So be sure to tune in for the live watch-along reactions of the Rose Bowl with the Nittany Lions and Utes. And as a Penn State fan myself, might sound a little stupid, but to all Utah fans, or even BYU fans for that matter, or just anybody who knows, what in the hell is a Ute? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I think offensively, if Penn State can run the football, should be okay because they'll play good defense. Utah's probably going to do the same offensively, and then it's going to come back to the quarterbacks on, who can make a play or two here or there. It might be an explosive play or two that wins the game, but I think it's honestly going to be turnovers and what defense bends but doesn't break, and special teams. Penn State late this season, finally had a kickoff or a punt return for a touchdown for the first time in a few seasons. So special teams has returned, and they've, for the first time in a few more seasons than that, finally found a running game this year. And a quiet 10-2 season. Once again, these teams were more similar than they are different. Both teams, 10-win years. Utah beat USC twice, won their conference. Penn State at 10-2, their two losses are the two Big Ten teams, two of the four teams that are playing in the college football playoff, for God's sakes, in Michigan, Ohio State. So that has to speak for something. Of course, it's a loss. You don't want to, have, any losses for that matter. But of the two losses, I mean, those are two damn good losses to have on your resume. Even though that sucks to say, like, you don't want to lose, you want to win. But yeah. I'll keep it at that. I'm sure I'm forgetting something right now. As a bunch of just doing all these off the cuff here for a bowl preview. I mean, hell, we're a good hour or so in now at this point. But there's 40 plus bowl games to talk about, and this is one final week, basically, over the next few weeks for the college football season. So. I'll have live watch-along reactions of the Rose Bowl with Penn State and Utah. Be sure to tune in on January the 2nd. Game starts at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so 2 local out in the hills in Pasadena. As, we'll see who comes out on top. But hoping for a good game, of course. It should be a good game, for that matter. Both fan bases are going to travel extremely well. That's a given. Utah, coming off a Rose Bowl, lost last year to Ohio State, okay? They should have won that game. You go check out my bowl preview from last year. I picked Utah to beat Ohio State because I thought they would. And they should have, but then they lost it late because Ohio State came back and won it. So they're out for some payback, especially going back to another Rose Bowl game, for God's sakes. And then Penn State, they haven't had the chance to go back to the Rose Bowl in 6 seasons, but let alone win it in 25 plus, for that matter. So something's got to give. But of course, as a Penn State fan myself, we are Penn State. I'm not picking against them. I never do. I never will. Win, lose, or draw with the tie, I bleed blue and white until the day I die. We are Penn State. Penn State defeats Utah, I believe, in the Rose Bowl. Like I said, we'll have more info on that during that game with live stream, so be sure to tune in for that. But now, without any further ado, kiss you goodbye and good night, bang. We got the college football playoff. 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Fiesta Bowl's first, followed by the Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve. And then on January the 9th, the 2 winners between Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan and TCU will face off for the College Football Playoff National Championship. Of course, Georgia looking to win back-to-back titles. Ohio State, they are 11-1. They lost to Michigan in the game in the final weekend of the regular season. Of course, Michigan, as they'll play TCU out in the desert, finished at 13-0, won the Big Ten for their second straight year. And as a Big Ten fan myself, TCU, of course, lost to Kansas State, lone loss of the year. They split with the Wildcats. They beat them earlier this year, came from behind. They find ways to win, but then they lost as time expired in overtime with a game-winning field goal in the Big 12 title game. I think of the 2 games, the given is that Michigan should beat TCU. So Michigan's in the national championship game. And then you have, if Georgia would win, a rematch of the Orange Bowl from last year in the 1 semi. Georgia, of course, then went on to beat Alabama in the national championship game. But then you have Ohio State back in the mix, and they've won in the semifinals, they've lost in the semifinals. And they've won a national championship, as Georgia has as well, under this 4-team college football playoff format, actually in the first year back in 2014. But that was then, this is now. I think Michigan beats TCU. It's the run game, it's the defense. Of course, Max Duggan playing with all the heart in the world. See how many plays he makes, but I think it's going to come down to mistakes, a couple turnovers, probably late, and Michigan wins it at the end over TCU. And then, well, before I get to the Peach Bowl then at that point, I might say about Michigan, as I've stated in the past, it was, I don't know, probably about a decade or so ago now, 2011, 2012. I've said this before, so don't believe me, go check it out. I don't know where it would be. You'd have to do some digging, but if you know, you know. If you don't believe me, well, tough shit. I don't care. Basically, I said then that I had thought, and of course another 5 years has passed from this, time frame, that I thought Michigan was going to play and win a national championship in college football within the next 5 years, and this was a decade ago, so 10 years ago. So add that another 5. Well, they're back-to-back college football playoff appearances, lost. They're on a revenge tour. Going to hope to win in the semis this year, let alone make it the national championship game and win that as well. I don't think anybody's honestly given Ohio State a chance. I don't. But I think Georgia's going to lose. Now, would that have been to, at least in the SEC East, with who they play every year, Florida-Georgia game, rivals in Hotland and Georgia Tech. Of course, they're the team right now that's playing damn good defense. They're keeping it simple on offense for Stetson Bennett, who finished 4th in the Heisman voting, behind Caleb Williams, Max Duggan, and C.J. Stroud. So we have Heisman finalists playing in the college football playoff, as of course Caleb Williams with the win, but then in his speech, hey, Even though I won this, I'm not playing in the semis in the college football playoff, let alone potentially playing for the national championship. Now, if USC would have won the Pac-12, then yeah, they'd be in for sure. Ohio State wouldn't be. But I see that's the thing. I've been saying I think Georgia's going to lose, and they've cut it close. You know, late this year, beat LSU in this championship, and I don't think anybody's giving Ohio State a chance. I don't. And they're coming off of a big loss home to Michigan, back-to-back year. They've lost to Michigan, I might add, as well. Something hasn't been done since the turn of the century. And Ohio State, I think, upsets Georgia. I do. And you might be saying, well, he's just saying that. And to an extent, yes, it is correct. You are right. As a Big Ten fan myself, once again, you got to root for the conference during bowl season. So, I mean, one way or another, I think we're getting a rematch with either Michigan and Georgia or Michigan and Ohio State from the semi last year, of course, and the game that's played every year. I mean, the most realistic possibility is Georgia and Michigan. I think that's a given for anybody in the national championship game this year. But of course, that's why everybody has their own opinion and everybody has their preview prediction, their input on this and that. And if it comes to fruition, if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. No, but somebody's going to have something to say about it. But it is what it is. So I'm taking Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl to beat TCU. I am. I think Georgia's going to lose, but I'm not going to be surprised if they win, make it back to the national championship game, and then it's, winner take all with 2 14-0 unbeatens with Georgia and Michigan in the national championship game, and a rematch of the Orange Bowl from last year, and may the best team win. But I'm picking Ohio State. And as mentioned, as a Penn State fan myself, finishing at 10-2 this year for the Nittany Lions. 2 losses to 2 of the 4 teams in the college football playoff. First time the Big Ten's gotten 2 teams in the playoff in the same season in both Michigan and Ohio State. And I think we've seen numerous SEC championship, national championship games. It's time for a Big Ten winner-take-all national championship game this year. So it'll probably be Michigan and Georgia, no doubt about it. 2 versus 1, 1 versus 2, however you want to put it. Rematch from the Orange Bowl last year. Georgia won the national championship, come from behind, beating Alabama, looking to repeat. But I think they're going to lose. And Ohio State's going to be that team to beat them. Michigan beats TCU. Ohio State beats Georgia, I think. And then, honestly, in the national championship game, may the best team win. And then Penn State will win the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's not going to be how it'll play out by any means. But you could honestly say then, okay, Penn State 11-2 Rose Bowl win over Utah, Big Ten national championship game with Michigan, Ohio State. Penn State lost to both those teams. Honestly, technically, then at that point, you think about it, they're like the third best team in the country, for God's sakes. Joking aside, of course, not how it's going to be ranking-wise. But, I mean, if you win and you're right now in the top 12, maybe even 15, win your bowl game, you're for sure going to finish with a top 10 finish in the rankings on the year. And then, preseason rankings, for the start of the next seasons don't mean shit, but, they got to have them for some sort of, I don't even know what you want to call it, just starting point, I guess you could say. Okay, who's good, who's bad? Well, you find out when the teams play, of course, but, yeah, it'll probably be Georgia and Michigan in the national championship game. But I'm taking Michigan and Ohio State. And may the best team win, but whenever Michigan and Ohio State 9 times out of 10 play each other, I always pick the Wolverines, so go blue, but I'll also say OHIO. But at the end of the day, we are Penn State. As hopefully Penn State wins the Rose Bowl over Utah. Hoping for a good game, though, as mentioned, along with, just hoping to see a lot of damn good college football bowl games once again this bowl season. Of course, may the best teams win. We'll see who's winning the 2 playoff semis in the Peach and Fiesta Bowls, respectively. And then we'll see who's playing in the national championship game on Monday night, January the 9th, 2023. As also have live watch-along reactions of that live right here on YouTube then, so be sure to tune in for that as well. So this bowl preview of live reactions of the Rose Bowl and the College Football Playoff National Championship game. And then that'll do it for college football this season. Of course, in the meantime, just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for support. But also in the meantime, let me know in the comments below who you have winning these respective bowl games. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this video. But in the meantime, that should do it for this audio-only live watch-along reaction stream for my college football 2022 bowl game preview. So run down through these once again with winners. Of course, 1-1 already. Picked UAB and UTSA. UAB won. UTSA lost to Troy. It looks like Louisville will beat Cincinnati in the Fenway Bowl, unless, bearing a big comeback in the, second half here. So it might be 1-2, but picked Cincinnati in that game. Picked Oregon State along with Fresno State. Rice, BYU, Boise State, UConn, Eastern Michigan, Toledo, South Alabama, Air Force, Houston, Wake Forest, San Diego State, Bowling Green. Can't even remember who I picked with Buffalo and Georgia Southern, but oh, that's right. Go Big Red. They beat up on the Cornhuskers. Yeah, Georgia Southern. I believe Utah State, but maybe I picked Memphis. Utah State. Coastal Carolina, on Wisconsin. UCF, Arkansas, Oregon, Ole Miss, Minnesota, Florida State, Washington, NC State, UCLA. One don't want to be playing South Carolina right now by any means. So, yeah, eat shit Pitt. UCLA wins the Sun Bowl, and South Carolina, I think, wins the Gator Bowl. Ohio, go Bobcats, as the hole in the bottle, Kelsey Ballerini would say. A lot of orange in the Orange Bowl with Tennessee and Clemson, but go Tigers. For Coach O, Ed Orgeron, his LSU Tigers, with Brian Kelly now at the helm. Also have them in the Citrus Bowl, but yeah, Clemson. One big upset. I think Kansas State's going to beat Bama, but I'm not going to be surprised if Alabama wins. These are, once again, predictions. Iowa, sentimental favorite, is Mississippi State. Rest in peace once again to Mike Leach. But two winners there, Mississippi State with that, but then Illinois, USC, LSU. We are Penn State, hopefully to win the Rose Bowl. And then I have Michigan defeating TCU and Ohio State defeating Georgia, but the national championship game will probably be Georgia and Michigan if I'd have to guess. And then, may the best team win in the national championship game. We'll see what happens. I'll let you know then who I think is going to win. But those are, in fact, my college football 2022 bowl game predictions. So, in the meantime, that'll do it. But thanks for tuning in and listening. As always, I'm your host, Encyclopedia Sports, Cool and Luke 96. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on social media. Links in the description below. And then I hope to see everybody, of course, for more live watch-along reactions live here on YouTube, whether that be in the near future, next couple days, weeks, months to come. Be sure to subscribe with college football, NFL, and professional wrestling content. And then I'll see everybody for the Rose Bowl and the College Football Playoff National Championship game with live watch-along reactions then. So, thanks for tuning in and listening. That'll do it. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on social media. Links in the description below.